This is a follow-up video to a video I made called How to Deal with Dishonored Enemies. But in this one, we're going to be focusing on the unique enemies in Dishonored 2. So we're talking Clockwork Soldiers, Witches, Gravehounds, even though Gravehounds are in the Rigmore Witches, but they're in this game as well, so I thought I'd include them. Nest Keepers and Bloodflies. So the first enemy we're going to be talking about are Clockwork Soldiers. And, this is what can happen when things go wrong. And yep, that's what happens. So what you want to kind of do with Clockwork Soldiers is you want to try and target their weak points. So the weak points are their head and their arms. So when you're attacking them, you can actually use your sword when you're fighting them, which works quite well. I haven't seen too many strategies that use this, but all you have to do is just block their attacks and then attack when they're not attacking you. So that works quite well. And you'll see they do some really crazy attacks, but just hold your ground and keep attacking. And you shouldn't take any damage using this method. So yep, there we go. You've taken off its head, block, and then attack. There we go, block again, then attack. So you'll probably notice that sometimes when you attack Clockwork Soldiers like this, it feels like you're not really doing any damage. And that's partly true. You actually have to hit Clockwork Soldiers in certain points on their body for them to actually take damage. And obviously they discharge when they explode. So you got to try and keep your distance when you've kind of dealt a final blow or lethal blow. And there's actually another way you can actually deal with Clockwork Soldiers. So apart from using your sword, you can actually, once the Clockwork Soldier actually moves in place, what you can do is you can actually climb up to an area that's kind of like above ground level, and just jump on their head and just take it straight off. So this is kind of similar to Dishonored 1, where you could actually jump on tall boys, except with this, you actually have to jump on Clockwork Soldiers twice to be able to take them out completely. It might be a bit tricky to pull off because, once you've taken them out, like they might not be in a position where you kind of jump on them again, but try and do that if you can, because that's like the best way to take out a Clockwork Soldier. And with dealing with two Clockwork Soldiers, this is sort of what can happen. Obviously, it's very overwhelming, and you can be taken out quite quickly just using your sword. Excuse me. So what you want to try and do is, when you're dealing with two Clockwork Soldiers, it is quite overwhelming. And what I want to do is, I want to try and separate them. So obviously try and do that, but obviously, when you try and keep your distance, that can happen. You can actually have a discharge hit you, because Clockwork Soldiers can actually attack you from range using electricity. So what you want to try and do is do the exact same thing I did before, but try to do it quickly. I know it kind of seems like something that's not very viable, because it just doesn't really seem like a move that'd be very successful, every time you use it, but it can be quite handy. And obviously you saw there that if you take out the head of a Clockwork Soldier, it actually attacks anything in its way. So the next enemy we're going to be talking about are Witches. And normally with Witches, they actually attack in groups. Very rarely do you find a witch by themselves. And so that's what happens when things go wrong. So the thing with Witches in mind, you got to keep in mind that you're going to be fighting them in groups. So the best strategy, in my opinion, is to just take them out from range. I know that seems a bit basic, but that is probably the best strategy I have, or you can probably use in this situation. And so you take out your your crossbow to take them out. I wouldn't recommend using a pistol, because if you use a pistol, even if you take one of them out, all the other ones are going to be alerted. And the thing with witches is that they can actually teleport. So even if you're like above ground on like a rooftop or a building, on a building, they will teleport up there to take you out. So just keep that in mind. So there we go. So there's only one more left. She has no idea what's going on. And yep, and that's about it. As easy as that. Um, and yeah, I think the other thing I want to mention as well is that witches can actually attack you from range. So as well as having swords, they actually have long range attacks they can try and hit you with. So you got to watch out for that. Um, and yeah, there we go. Once again, witches can teleport. And the thing is, when they teleport, you don't know where they are, so it is a very dangerous situation to be in. And you've just got to try and be careful. And yeah, that's what you can do with a sword and a pistol, just to mention. And yep, these are gravehounds. So gravehounds are very similar to just regular hounds. The only difference is that you actually have to take them out twice to be able to take them out completely. I included them in this video because of that reason. Otherwise, I probably just left them out altogether. So the best way to take out a gravehound is once again similar to witches, just do it from range. Obviously, gravehounds or hounds in general, they don't need to be able to see you to detect you, so this is probably the best way to go about dealing with them. And when you take them out, make sure you actually destroy their head because they can actually come back. And another method you can actually use is, I guess, just with your sword. Obviously, I like using a sword in this game, so a lot of strategies are based around using a sword. So yeah, just make sure you go behind them. It'll activate the animation and then destroy their head. Once again, um, you know, it is, it sounds a lot easier than I make it sound, but yeah, anyway. So anyway, onto blood flies. This is what can happen when um, you get too close to a nest. Um, so what you want to try and do is, um, the first method you can use a sword. It does like literally no damage. If you take them out quickly, like you take like no damage. So that's something that you can do. And here's another one again that you can use. And yeah, another strategy you can do is just avoid the actual nest and just use a flammable a bottle. So there's actually specific items called flammable liquids. I just grabbed a bottle just then that I used, and you can actually use these flammable bottles to actually take them out. There is actually you can actually use in an incendiary bolt. I think that's how you pronounce it, to actually take them out, because incendiary bolts actually full of fire, so you can actually use them to basically take out these nests like you do with these bottles. It works exactly the same way, and it's just as effective. Obviously, you can use a sword as well. There's really no difference. You don't take any damage either way, and yeah, that's about it. The very last enemy we're going through is the nest keepers, and this is what can happen when things go bad. I think in this nest there's actually two nest keepers, so yep, so they can do quite a bit of damage because of the blood flies in the area as well. They all attack together. So yeah, it's basically just me buying an incendiary bolt because I didn't realize that you actually had to get the blueprint. Oh my god, blueprint for it to actually be able to use it. So I just put that in the video just to let people know that that's what you have to do. And yep, so there we go. You can use an incendiary bolt to take them out. Also, I want to mention that you can use a pistol and just a regular an arrow to be able to take them out, but it takes about 4 or 5 shots to be able to take a nest keeper out using a pistol or an arrow. So the best way to take them out is just to use something flammable. So an incendiary bolt or just a flammable bottle if you can get one. and that's about it.